This is Chapter 5, Part 4. Let's pick up and talk about a classic sociological approach to explaining crime called differential association theory. And I always like to try to, even though these theories are more complicated than what I'm laying out here, I like to, as much as possible, to reduce these theories down to one sentence, so at least you have the core idea behind them. We won't have time in this course to get into all the details of the theories. According to this theory, young people commit crimes because they learn pro-criminal definitions, which is just another term for values, basically, from their peers. And by peers, we mean your friends, the people you hang out with. So according to this theory, your friends, especially when you're a teenager, are very important to an individual and have a lot of influence on them, and that the kinds of friends you're hanging out with will influence your attitudes towards criminal behavior, delinquent behavior. If you hang out, this according to this theory, if you associate and hang out with kids who like breaking the law and who have a habit of breaking the law, that they will tend to convince you that that crime is a good thing, it's acceptable, it's profitable, it's the thing to do, and that you, if you spend a lot of time around them, you will tend to absorb their values, their pro-criminal values or definitions. They use the term definition just because it refers to how you look at a situation. Say you're in a store and you're tempted to take something that doesn't belong to you, take something without paying for it. If you define that situation as one where it's okay to steal, that maybe it's fun, it's exciting, and you want to see if you can get away with it, like making it sort of into a fun kind of activity, well, you've defined that situation in a certain way different than how somebody else would. Somebody else would say, well, that's criminal to steal property that doesn't belong to you. And so this theory focuses on friends and adolescence as a key point, a key stage in life that helps determine whether somebody follows a path towards following the laws or a path towards a criminal sort of set of values and a lifestyle that might go with that. So friends are key according to this theory. Now, this is an older theory developed several decades ago, a long time ago. And so in more recent decades, there have been researchers who thought, well, differential association is a pretty good theory, but it's a little too simple because it only focuses on learning bad values from delinquent friends. And so they added to that. They said they borrowed some concepts from psychology and added to differential association. So according to this theory, young people commit crimes because, number one, they associate with delinquent peers. That's the same as differential association theory. So it all depends who you're hanging out with. They learn pro-criminal definitions from their friends. That's the same as differential association theory. These last two add a couple of extra components. Number three, these young people will commit crimes because they have learned that the delinquent behavior of their friends gets rewarded. In psychology, they'll use this term reinforcement. It gets reinforced or rewarded. So you're hanging out with these delinquent friends. You see them bully and attack, some random kid, and they laugh about it, and they think that they, sort of look tough, and they got the best of this poor helpless kid. And so a delinquent learns, oh, if I'm like a tough guy, if I like to bully people and pick on people and beat them up, I get my way. Maybe I can get their lunch money. I look good to my friends, kind of thing. And so if you were socially rewarded, and here this theory focuses on being socially rewarded, that you get a slap, a pat on the back if you commit crimes, and you get disapproved of. Maybe you get ridiculed, ostracized, kicked out of your group if you're unwilling to commit crimes. So really this is pretty much the same idea as peer pressure. that you're pressured by your friends to commit crimes and you're punished by them if you refuse to commit crimes. So some of why you're committing crimes as a teenager is due to social pressure and rewards your friends liking it if you do bad things. That's reinforcement. And number 4, finally, that you imitate the behavior of delinquent friends. So you're hanging out with your friends, you're watching what they do, and when you're young, you're impressionable, and you learn how to behave by imitating other people. So you watch other people committing crimes, you see how they do it, you learn techniques of how criminals will commit their crimes. And throw on top of that, not only did you see them do it and learn through imitation, but you also learn by watching that they're getting rewarded for it. So if they steal something and they get away with it, and you observe that, then you're more likely to imitate it because you see that it's paying off, and you see how the whole thing works, how the behavior works, and how it's done, how the crime is committed, how to pull it off, get away with it. So in a nutshell, social learning theory just adds a couple social learning components from psychology onto this older theory of differential association theory. Both of the theories focus on the same thing, which is this key time of life, adolescence, when your friends matter a lot, and the type of friends you have are very important according to both of these theories. Now, neutralization theory, I'm not going to spend so much time on. Again, I've got to sort of select and focus on the theories that are most central to the discipline of criminology. Let me just say with neutralization theory that it focuses on how criminals tend to come up with rationalizations for why they commit crimes, excuses, justifications. Oh, that nobody really got hurt by my crime, or the victim really had it coming. They deserved it. They were foolish. They were stupid. They were insulting and rude, and so they deserve the attack that they got, that kind of thing. So they come up with techniques to make it seem like what the crimes that they committed were okay and were either justifiable or fine or not really crimes. So there's several techniques. I won't go through all of those. But it's really the kind of excuses, that kind of thing that people in general will tend to excuse their behavior with justifications, with rationalizations, with excuses. And criminals do that too. And according to this theory, it facilitates their behavior. It makes them go ahead and commit these crimes because they feel okay about them, because they tell themselves things to make themselves feel okay about the crime. So just think excuses there that enable crimes. Now, personality is one that I really want to stress, and the textbook doesn't stress it too much. I want to stress it because you don't hear it so much in the classrooms and in the textbooks, and probably because it comes from, I suppose, a less popular subdiscipline within psychology, but I think it's a really important one because it's different, and I want to give you the full contrast, the full array of kinds of theories to explain crime. Well, what we mean by personality is this is an individual's disposition, that's a key word right there, to act and respond in certain ways. So let's say that a good way to think of personality is if you haven't seen a friend in many years, say maybe since you were a child, a teenager or something like that. 10 years later, you run into this friend, and you can see right off the bat that he's still the same old guy, behaves the same way, still seems like to be the same kind of person. Just the person's behavior and the way they are is reliable. It doesn't change much over time, and it tends to be the same from one situation to another situation to another situation. So an example of a personality trait might be shyness, that your person is not really comfortable around strangers or people you don't know very well. And so that's a trait that will tend to be with you throughout life. Now, it may change some, but it's a tendency to be shy. And not only does it tend to endure throughout life, it's also something that a tendency that a person will have in different situations they still tend to be a little bit uncomfortable around people. So shyness is a good example of what they would call a personality trait. So it's thought to be something that's sort of it's a pretty long-lasting part of who you are, and really a lot of this research sort of focuses on how the reason why you tend to react and act the same in different situations and over time is that really your behavior is rooted in your brain organization, your brain structure, and your brain has developed and learned to react to things in reliable, sort of predictable ways. And that really a key point here is that people develop different brains, different habits, different personality traits, one from another. And so this theory is very different from other ones, not only because it focuses on the inside of a person as opposed to their social environment, but it also focuses on how everybody's different, that people will act differently. Same situation, put a kid in a situation, put another kid in the same situation. Personality theory will say the kids are probably likely to act a little bit differently because they have different personalities. They react to things differently. So it's a focus on individual differences, and that's one thing that makes it interesting and unique, is that most of these theories say that you act the same in every situation. I'm sorry, that all people will act the same in a given situation. Say some shoplifting or situation or something like that, that if everybody was put in that situation, they'd act the same way. The personality theorist says, no, people are different. And you put one kid in a situation, he or she's going to act differently than another kid, who's going to act differently than another kid. So it's all about individuality, individual differences, and that we're all unique. That's the focus of personality theory. Now, there's different personality, what they call personality systems, that try to summarize all of your major personality traits. And one of the most popular systems, is called the 5-factor model, or the Big Five. And it talks about 5 what they call super traits, which are these big, important, broad personality characteristics that everybody falls along a continuum on each one of these 5 characteristics. And those 5, where you fall on those 5 characteristics kind of determines what your overall personality is like. So the 5 super traits, they call them, are these that are listed here: extroversion, negative emotionality, conscientiousness, agreeableness, and openness to experience. By extroversion, they mean how outgoing you are. If you're someone who's just a people person and you're not shy and you love parties and you're very comfortable talking to strangers and approaching strangers and introducing yourself and speaking up in a group situation, that's an extroverted person. An introverted person is the opposite of that. Someone who's shy, someone who's uncomfortable around strangers, someone who has a hard time approaching strangers or dealing with people that you don't know well, that you're not comfortable with. So it's a continuum going from one extreme to the other, where most people are going to fit somewhere in the middle, not too extroverted and not too introverted. Think of most people being kind of in the middle on these traits, but some individuals are more extreme, either extremely high or extremely low. So that's extroversion. Negative emotionality is a tendency to quickly develop negative emotions. By negative emotions, we mean things like nervousness, anxiety, sadness, fear, anger, anything that you could call negative. Research has shown that people tend to vary on this. Some people are very high strung and are quick to experience and show and express negative emotions. They're quick to anger, they're quick to nervousness, they're quick to worry, to depression, to sadness, etc. And then there's other people who tend to be more even-keeled, who are calm. If there's a crisis, if there's a difficulty, this kind of person just kind of handles it calmly, and stuff just kind of rolls off of them. They're kind of smooth, they're kind of even-keeled that way, and not prone, not really emotional, especially we're talking here about emotional in a negative way. So that's negative emotionality. Number 3 is conscientiousness, and that really is sort of how self-disciplined you are. People who score really high on conscientiousness are they plan a lot, they're organized, they're detail-oriented, they're very hardworking, strong work ethic, very on top of stuff. People who score low in conscientiousness are more relaxed, easygoing, maybe a little bit disorganized, maybe could be a little on the lazy side. And so that kind of a thing. And again, most people would probably be in the middle somewhere, but you have your extremes. Number 4 is agreeableness, which is, if you score high on agreeableness, that means you're somebody who's really motivated to get along with other people, to agree with other people, that you don't like conflict. You don't want to have trouble, difficulty, disputes with other people. People who score really low on agreeableness, people who are highly disagreeable, those are people who like conflict, who are comfortable with conflict, who enjoy a good fight, who find it kind of enjoyable and pleasant to be at war with somebody else. Well, somebody who's highly agreeable doesn't like that. It makes them feel very uncomfortable to be in some sort of dispute with somebody else. So again, most people in the middle. And finally, openness to experience. People who score high on this one are very much like to experience new things. So they always want to travel and see some new place they've never seen before. They want to try exotic restaurants and try different types of food that they never tried before. They're very much into sort of experiencing, learning, all sorts of new kinds of things. A person who scores low in openness to experience is someone who enjoys routine. Someone who kind of likes to have the same schedule throughout the day, and someone maybe who likes they know their favorite kind of foods and they like to stick with their favorite kind of foods, and they don't need to try a lot of different exotic sorts of things. Maybe they don't need to travel or experience a lot of things. They're comfortable with just with sort of the routine. And so that's again, most people in the middle, but it can vary from one extreme to the other. So overall, these 5 traits are considered to be, whatever you score on each one of these 5, you put all those 5 together, and that's basically who you are in terms of your personality. Now, let me just say, to finish up this segment, that when it comes to this is, what does this have to do with crime, right? Well, 3 of these traits are correlated with crime. People who are highly negatively emotional tend to be a little bit more likely to break the law, especially when it comes to violence. If you have an anger problem, no big surprise there that you're more likely to be violent. If you have a really short, uncontrollable temper, people who are highly disciplined and high in conscientiousness plan everything very careful before they act, think things through very carefully. Those people are less likely to be criminals. Criminals are much more likely to sort of jump into things, to be spontaneous, to be impulsive, to not think carefully and plan before they act. They just jump in and sometimes get themselves into trouble, may show poor judgment. People who are number 4, or highly disagreeable, like a fight, enjoy conflict. Those folks are more inclined to be criminal than people who are very motivated to get along with other people and maybe be polite and be nice and be cooperative with other people. The cooperative people are less likely to be criminal. Extroversion, number 1, and openness to experience really aren't connected to criminality, according to most research. So it's just negative emotionality, low conscientiousness, and high disagreeableness that are correlated with criminal behavior. So let's stop right there.